Hey, welcome back to YT Finance, and this is the channel where I went to business school so you didn't need to, and today we are talking about Sofi Technologies SOFI stock and where I was wrong about this particular company. I was so wrong, in fact, that I've sold all of my Sofi shares. I'm just kidding, literally that's a joke, but literally in this video we are going to look at new forecasts and projections among professionals and analysts, financial reporters, and stock commentators for this particular company. So if you want more news updates on Sofi Technologies and the latest price targets from professionals, remember to go and smash that like button right now, comment your thoughts down below, subscribe if you are new, and without further ado, let's just jump right into today's stories. As we analyze this article, we are going to determine where the Sofi stock price could be headed in the future based off of the newest plans and policies from the Biden administration. Right now, the Sofi stock price trades for $6.70, while professionals think that over the next 12 months, the company should be worth anywhere between $7 on the low end and $11 on the high end. If you didn't know, Sofi Technologies is a fintech company or a financial technology company that offers an all-in-one inclusive digital app where they give their consumers and their customers access to various financial services and products. Basically, Sofi operates as a very innovative digital bank. And if you haven't heard recently, the Biden administration has pushed the student loan moratorium and the student loan freeze where you don't have to make payments and interest won't start accruing until after December 31st. The Biden administration is also trying to clear around $10,000 worth of student loan debt per borrower if they qualify, if they make less than $125,000 on an individual basis, or if they're filing jointly that they make less than $250,000. But we're going to talk more about that later in the video. Right now, I want to go over what analysts think about these new policies that have come out about the extension and the student loan forgiveness, as well as where we can see the Sofi stock price head in the future, because that's what I really want to know. According to a Morgan Stanley analyst, he actually raised his 2023 full-year projections in his forecasts for Sofi Technologies adjusted revenue, which he increased by around 4% to where he thinks the company is going to bring in for the full year of 2023 around $2.16 billion. And he also projects that their 2023 EBITDA will be around $332 million, which is an increase of around 18% from his prior estimate. And of course, this is going to be including his newest estimates for the student loan refinance originations, which according to his projections increased, and he bumped up from $4.5 billion to $6.7 billion, which is absolutely phenomenal, because when the student loan moratorium ends, there's not going to be a reason for people who have student loan debt to not want to refinance their student loans at a lower interest rate, because now that debt is going to start to accrue interest and they need to start making payments on it, so that's going to force people, or at least encourage people, to refinance their student loans. The analyst also anticipates that there will not be another student loan moratorium extension. He believes that this is going to be the last student loan moratorium extension, and I 100% agree with him. The government plan isn't all good for Sofi Technologies, though, as another analyst highlights from Oppenheimer, where he says that this will actually shrink Sofi Technologies' total addressable market. And what he means by that is around 68% of student loan recipients, or people who have student loan debt, have incomes under $120,000. So these people could have literally around $10,000 and even $20,000 in some cases removed from their overall debt load, which is going to lower Sofi Technologies' total addressable market in terms of their student loan refinancing business by a pretty large margin. Also, I want to highlight that around 34% of the recipients have debt that is less than around $10,000. And if that $10,000 is completely removed, we're actually going to cut out around 34% of the recipients, according to this Oppenheimer analyst. So clearly it's going to lower the overall addressable market for Sofi Technologies, but we're going to talk about how we really shouldn't sweat that in the next article that we are going to be talking about. This particular author goes on and says, and I quote, "Another factor that could overhang the stock is whether the debt forgiveness plan can be implemented." And then this author ends up quoting a Morgan Stanley economist whose name is Sarah A. Wolf, who says, "There are legal questions surrounding the president's authority to cancel student loan debt via an executive order." The economist goes on to say, "Such a policy might require action by Congress, which dims prospects for passage given a variety of procedural and political constraints," end quote. And that's what I was alluding to earlier. There is still an opportunity where this debt forgiveness forgiveness either gets lowered or doesn't go through at all. The Department of Justice also ended up chiming in with their opinion that says that the US Department of Education can actually cancel the federal student loan debt under the HEROES Act of 2003, so even if it can't go through the president, at least it could go through the US Department of Education. So we're going to see how that actually plays out. But either way, I don't think that Sofi Technologies is necessarily going to be too negatively affected by this, which is why we're going to go over to one of our favorite authors on this channel, whose name is Christopher Hogar, in which we have analyzed a multitude of his articles on this channel, and I agree with him literally like 99% of the time, and I think that his articles are really in-depth, and I greatly appreciate his opinion in written form on Seeking Alpha. And the reason we're highlighting this author is because he believes that the stock price for SoFi can actually climb as the company will benefit as the student loan repayments restart, and I do agree with him. But now we're going to jump over to his article that he wrote recently, and we are going to analyze it and dissect it so I can add my personal opinions about it. However, again, always make sure if you want more information, go check out and read these articles for yourselves. I always link the sources to the articles that I analyze in the description down below. So if you want even more information than the summaries that I offer you, I highly encourage you to go and support these authors and read their material, because they spend a lot of time actually analyzing these companies and writing about them. So again, for more information, don't forget to check out the articles below. I personally am not sponsored by Seeking Alpha at all. I have no affiliations with any of these authors or companies. I just want to make sure that you are informed so you can make very wise investing decisions. So with that being said, let's jump into Christopher's article. In one of his previous articles, he goes on to talk about how SoFi is no longer reliant on their student loan business, and I 100% agree with him. And again, that article that he wrote will be linked in the description box down below. But today we're going to focus on this article, where he thinks that Sofi Technologies is really going to start to appreciate in their overall growth and stock price, which I can definitely get behind. And he lays out a multitude of different scenarios in this article, but I'm not going to go too in-depth in this particular article. If you want the full analysis for yourself, you're just going to have to read it. The author goes on and says that student loans will resume in 2023, which we just talked about, and as these student loan payments restart in 2023, it's going to add a significant increase of revenue and profits to Sofi Technologies, to the point where this is going to act as a catalyst to not only cause the SoFi stock price to surge, but also help SoFi reach profitability on a GAAP basis a year ahead of schedule. And if you don't know, the current projections, at least to me, and the articles that I've analyzed and the data that I've crunched, says that Sofi Technologies will be profitable on a GAAP basis for the year of 2024. So clearly, this author thinks, due to the catalyst of the student loan repayments restarting, that this could catapult them to profitability on a generally accepted accounting principles basis a whole year ahead of schedule. So let's see what numbers and data he can give us to support this claim. He first starts off talking about the demand and how the student loan moratorium, when it ends, it's going to completely remove any reason for borrowers not to refinance student loans. So clearly they would want to refinance their student loan after the moratorium ends, to where they're going to have to start making payments, and that interest rate is really going to hit them hard. The author also rightfully points out that refinancing was the biggest section of SoFi's lending business, and he actually highlights this and how much SoFi was impacted negatively by the student loan moratorium, to where their originations for student loan refinancing fell off a cliff, where it went to $2.5 billion down to just $400 million worth of originations. So clearly, Sofi Technologies got hit really hard because of this. However, luckily, we get a slingshot effect where, because the student loan moratorium is ending, these loans and originations and refinances are going to start coming back, and the demand is going to flood into Sofi Technologies. So with this pent-up demand and originations hopefully increasing as the student loan moratorium ends or is ending, how much money will these loans actually bring in for Sofi Technologies? Well, he quotes the CEO, Anthony Noto, which says, and I quote, "Our student loan borrowers' weighted average income is $170,000 with a weighted average FICO score of 775, end quote. And from this, we can actually assume that SoFi's target customers actually wouldn't even qualify for student loan forgiveness, that $10,000 that we talked about earlier, because they're making over $125,000 per year, which means they are not going to be included in that $10,000 to $20,000 worth of student loan forgiveness. But I think this is a very important point to highlight, and it shows that SoFi is going to be very resilient even even despite the student loan forgiveness plan, because the majority of their target customers are not even included in the student loan forgiveness plan to begin with, because they target high young earners. I'm not saying that they're not going to be impacted at all. I'm just going to say it's not going to be as negative as people may think, and I think that's what the author is trying to bring to our attention, and I 100% agree with him in that particular regard. The author also highlights that their membership growth is absolutely astounding, where SoFi has an average membership growth of around 15% quarter over quarter. However, he does lay out a multitude of scenarios, because this 15% membership growth can actually range anywhere between around 11% on the low end and 50% on the high end, or 13% for a base case scenario. But either way, I would say membership growth of above 10% is actually not too bad, even considering the low end estimates in that particular regard. So I would say overall, it's pretty positive for the overall SoFi stock price and SoFi in general, because as they add more members, they're also going to be able to increase and use their flywheel business model to sell to those members and cross-sell to those members, thus increasing overall revenue and profitability, which we will talk about later in this particular article. Again, I am skipping a lot because I don't want to give too much away of this article. It's a beautifully written article, and I really want you all to check it out if you want more information. The CEO highlights that they target people who have on average around $70,000 worth of student loan debt, and even if $10,000 is forgiven, the company still gets to refinance $60,000. So clearly, they're still really going to make out very well in terms of revenue, and hopefully that's going to push them more toward a profitability. So again, I am in 100% agreement with the CEO and the author. Now, I also appreciate how the author highlights the assumptions that we are making, and he lays out around 4 cases: the ultra very bearish case, the normal bearish case, the baseline scenario, and the bullish scenario. And for me personally, I gravitate more to around the baseline scenario. I would disagree in minor things, but according to his projections, I would say they're pretty spot on. And if you want to know how to read this on screen, this column represents the average student loan debt that the company would be refinancing. This column represents the quarter over quarter membership growth that we talked about earlier. The column next to it would be origination in members. The column next to that would be net interest margin. The column next to that column would be the gain on sale margin, and next to that we can see that it's going to be the contribution margin as well as the overall ramp, and that's how you would interpret these numbers. And of course, these numbers would continuously get higher as you go down, working from the ultra bearish scenario to the more bullish scenario. But again, I would gravitate more toward the baseline scenario, and that's the scenario where I personally would fit into, because I don't really believe in being overly bullish on a particular company. I'm normally just going to take the difference or the middle. However, overall, I am very bullish on SoFi Technologies over the long term. But why is that? It's because I believe this company is rapidly growing, and they are increasing their revenues at an astounding rate, where their total revenues and profit for SoFi is expected to surge because the student loan moratorium is ending. And again, the author lays out their overall total revenues and their profit, which is going to be represented by the EBITDA or EBITDA, or earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. And as usual, I'm going to take the baseline revenues and the baseline EBITDA, which in my view is still pretty positive and popular. And again, I'm holding this company for the next 5 to 10 years. I currently have around a 4% portfolio allocation, but I am very bullish overall on this company, and I'm excited to see what the company could be worth well into the future. He also goes over what 6 analysts who project SoFi's quarterly revenue through 2023. And this is probably one of the most important graphics in this particular article, where I've highlighted the year-over-year growth. And like I've said in a multitude of my videos, if you can identify a company that is growing at over a 30% CAGR, which is their compounding annual growth rate in terms of their overall revenues, and they can do that consistently year over year, that is absolutely amazing. And as you can see here, all of these are absolutely spectacular. And from this, we get fantastic revenue estimates, which again range anywhere between $391.05 million in September of 2022 and $576.24 million for the fourth quarter of 2023 or December of 2023. So clearly they are scaling and growing their revenues very impressively, and they are still maintaining a compounding annual growth rate in terms of their revenue over 30% even during the full year of 2023, which leads us to look forward to 2023 and 2024 for them to eventually reach profitability. So, what does this author have to say about profitability? Where he says that the baseline case with 12% quarter-over-quarter growth would result in an earnings per share of 28 cents for fiscal 2023, which would bring profitability forward. And I have to say, if his projections are correct, then yes, they are going to be profitable in 2023, even if we use the base case scenario. All in all, if their price to sales multiple actually stays consistent, along with the other assumptions that this article talks about, we could anticipate that the SoFi stock price could surge anywhere between 50 and 360%, which is absolutely crazy. That is a gigantic amount of upside for SoFi stock investors. This would mean on the low end, we are looking at a stock price target of around $10.09. And again, like the author highlighted, this is the ultra bearish scenario. And on the most positive bullish scenario, we could be looking at a $30.54 stock price target. So thank you for watching all the way to the end of this video so you can see these stock price targets on screen. And if you want more videos like this one, remember to go and smash that like button right now. Comment your thoughts down below and your price target regarding what SoFi Technologies could be in the next year or two. Subscribe if you are new, and I will see you in the next YT video.